Hello, my name is Robert Oldroyd, and I'm the organist here at the First Presbyterian Church of Troy, Pennsylvania. In this video, we're going to explore our Aeolian-Skinner Pipe Organ. Its opus number is 1084. The organ is a central part of our worship service here, providing music for hymns, the liturgy, and other musical roles. It is actually the second organ of this church building. Before the conclusion of the Second World War, First Presbyterian used a William King organ. William King was a builder in Elmira, New York. It was a tracker organ, meaning that the keys aren't mechanically connected to the pipes. By the end of its life, the organ was getting pretty tired, and the third organist of the church, Mrs. Weikester, complained that the keys were so hard to press in the winter that they would cause her fingers to crack and bleed onto the keys. It was decided that there was no saving the William King organ, so a new one would be built. The current organ was designed beginning in 1945. It was completed with the remodeled chancel in 1950. The Aeolian-Skinner Company of Boston, Massachusetts designed and created all of the parts. They were shipped by train to Troy. This organ is an American classic. The American classic is a reaction to the large romantic organs that imitated symphony orchestras. The American classic harkens back to organs hundreds of years old while keeping some modern colors and using modern construction. This organ is a small but excellent example. Being a blend of old and new, this organ is very utilitarian. With this organ, one can play all types of music. Perhaps you would play something organoplano or full organ, like Buxtehude. Or perhaps something with a solo line, like this Bach chorale prelude. Perhaps something from the Romantic period by Guillemot. Or continuing to fast forward, and something by Messiaen, much more modern. And of course, it's great for playing hymns as well. Although it has keys like the piano, the organ is quite different. There's almost no resistance to the pipe organ keys, whereas the piano has several mechanisms to swing a hammer to strike the string. You'll also notice that the organ manual or keyboard has 61 keys opposed to the piano's 88. We call the middle manual the grate. Above that is the swell, and below that is the choir. For my feet, I have the pedal board. There are 32 pedals, and you'll notice that there's a slight arc to the pedal board, and that's to help with range of motion and facility. Every pipe organ is different, and they are specially designed for their space. This organ was designed and built when the prevailing school of thought was that organs should be hidden and not a vivid display. The pipes are hidden behind trim and mesh. The swell division of the organ is located behind me on the east side of the sanctuary, and the choir and grate are located on the west side. The choir and grate chamber is over 2 stories tall. Organs are complicated pieces of engineering. It all begins with the blower. The blower is located in the cellar directly below our chancel. The Spencer Orgo blower is powered by a 3-horsepower single-phase electric motor. The Spencer blower is specially designed for this organ and has 3 turbines within its housing. 2 of the turbines power the chambers, and the 3rd powers the console, and we'll discuss that a little bit more later. Once the air is moved via large pipes, it goes into air reservoirs and then into the wind chests. The pipes connect into the wind chests, and they control when the air is released. Raw air from the blower to the pipes sounds very bad, so reservoirs and wind chests play an important part in creating beautiful tone. I mentioned the 3rd turbine from the blower. This portion of the air is used for the console. Our organ is electro-pneumatic, meaning that electric signals are sent when the keys are pressed. Some of the buttons are moved with magnets, and my stops are moved with air pressure. Within the console are levers, air seals, and devices that look like bellows, magnets, and many other devices. All information is sent to the rest of the organ by electrical current. All of the wiring in this organ is cloth-covered wire. In addition to the stops and the keys, this organ has several devices that help me perform. The first of which are the couplers. Now, the couplers are found above the swell, and they allow me to transfer sound from one manual to another manual. For example, I could make a sound in the swell, and with the help of a coupler, I could move it to the grate, or if I wanted to, the choir. And so I can mix match all of these manuals and their sounds. Now, one thing that the coupler can also do is change the octave at which that manual is sounding on another manual. For example, an octave higher or an octave lower. The next very useful tool are the pistons. Now, there are sets of pistons beneath each manual. This organ has 4, and then one that says 0, which clears them. The pistons are programmable with different sounds, so it can be very helpful when performing a piece. So that's 1, and then by pressing 0, I can cancel it. Each manual has their own set of pistons. Now, similar to pistons, generals are like pistons, but instead of programming one manual, they program the whole organ. They also program the couplers, and it can be very useful. Another button that I have right below the grate is called the forzando button, and the forzando button makes the organ immediately louder. So if I hold a chord in my left hand and hit the forzando button, it becomes immediately louder. Beneath the choir, I have 2 more buttons. One is called General Cancel, and you can probably guess what that does. So I have the whole organ going, and when I hit General Cancel, it clears the whole organ. And then I have a white button at the bottom of the choir that I use. I press it, and it will program any piston or general. So I pull out the stops, hold that button down, and then press a general, and it resets it. Just as I have buttons for my hands, I also have buttons and levers for my feet. Just like the manuals, the pedal board has 4 programmable pistons and a clear piston. These affect only the stops of the pedal board. There are also duplicates of the generals underneath the grate. These, just like the generals, change the stops of the organ. These can be very useful if your fingers are all tied up playing notes. You can change the whole sound of the organ without having your fingers leave the keyboard. There's a duplicate lever of the forzando button, which, just like with the generals, if your fingers are tied up, you can just put your toe on it and it'll change the tone of the organ. There is a grate to pedal lever coupler, which can be very useful in certain contexts. I have 3 foot pedals above the pedal board. The swell and the choir are under expression, which means they have giant shutters that can open and close to change how loud the division sounds. The third pedal is the crescendo pedal. When you use it, no matter how the organ is programmed, it will open more stops and make the organ louder. It is a little clunky at times, but can be used effectively in the right context. There are 2 types of pipes, flue pipes and reed pipes. You can think of flue pipes as something similar to a penny whistle and reed pipes as something similar to bagpipes. This organ has several versions of both types. Every stop on this organ is labeled with a number. That number tells you how long the lowest pipe is of that stop. For example, the principal 8, if I were to press the lowest C, that pipe is 8 feet long. 8 foot stops are what we call at-pitch stops. So with an 8 foot stop on, the middle C that I'm playing would be the same as the piano's middle C. If I were to pull a 4 foot stop, that means that the low C is 4 feet tall, which results in the notes being an octave higher. So if I were to alternate between the two, I'm going to hold the middle C down. The 4 foot is an octave higher. Now, if I were to pull a 16 foot, that's going to sound an octave lower. Now, unfortunately, this organ does not have fractions, but many organs do. And with the fractions, you start to get intervals of 12ths and 11ths and all sorts of kind of crazy sounds, which adds a brilliance to the sound. This organ does have a stop called a mixture, and mixtures are represented with Roman numerals. So depending on what the numeral is the amount of pipes per note. We have a mixture that has 3 pipes per note. In total, this pipe organ has 1,282 pipes and weighs about 7.5 tons. I'd like to go through some of these pipes to give you an idea of what they sound like. We're going to start with our diapason, the principal 8. So this is a very clean pipe that's not supposed to replicate another instrument. When you hear a diapason, that's usually what we think of when we hear the pipe organ. We also have flutes, and we have one on the grate called the melodia. This pipe is actually shaped as a square. And what is unique to this organ is that we have a 4-foot flute called the flute triangular, and the flute pipe is shaped as a triangle. And that has a bit of a hollow sound to it. We have several string stops. One is the viol da gamba, and this is in the swell. And this is a very warm sound. And then for our reeds, we have a beautiful trumpet. This is a great solo stop for the organ. Another solo stop in the swell is the reed stop vox humana. It's a little softer and has a very rich and interesting timbre to it. These stops are notoriously fickle because of their construction. They tend to hold their pitch well, and as the rest of the pipe organ shifts with temperature, the vox humana is a little rigid in its flexibility of adapting to temperature. Our last is the mixture stop, the plein jeu, and this, combined with other stops, makes a very brilliant and beautiful sound. You don't really use it by itself. It adds brilliance and projection to the organ. Thank you for joining me for this presentation. I hope you found it informative. Pipe organs are a testament to human creativity and ingenuity. As Psalm 150 says, "Let all things with breath praise the Lord," and pipe organs do just that. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you soon.